Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my channel. This is Dana. I want to apologize for not getting our Christmas Tag Friday video up yesterday. It was an extremely busy day for me yesterday, and I just didn't get around to filming. So we're doing it this morning, and this week's tag is super cute. It is a little fiddly. And a little bit time consuming depending on what you're actually, how many you're actually going to make. But this is what we're doing this morning. And we're going to be hand stitching on some craft paper and making a tag out of it. Very rustic. I just love how these turned out. I will say I'm inspired by Natasha over at Treasure Books. She did an embellishment video a couple weeks back, basically doing these little stitched, hand-stitched words on paper, and I just thought, oh, that would make such a great Christmas tag. So that's what we're working with, and here's all the different ones that I've done, and I'll show you those later. So first, let me tell you what we're going to need. You're going to need a craft piece of paper. Let me get my little measurements out here. This is, I started out, let's see. This is 2.5 by 3 7/8. And the process is, what you're going to do is you're going to just draw a word. I chose 4 different words. I made 12 tags. I chose 4 different words. So I have joy, Noel, rejoice, and merry. Those were, and I did 3 of each one. So what you're going to do is take it and just draw your word with pencil. Okay, and then what you do is I put a mouse pad underneath this. And what you're going to do is poke holes starting out with your junctions where 2 lines meet, and you'll poke a hole. And then I did one here and one here, and I just poked holes about 1/4 inch, maybe even more apart on straight lines. Now when you get to the curves, you need to make sure your holes are a little bit closer together, because if they're too, because basically you'll get kind of you won't really get the curve as you're hand stitching if your lines are too far apart, if your holes are too far apart. So you want to put them a little bit closer together, but not too close on curves, because if they're too close together, you could tear it as you're sewing it. So with a mouse pad underneath and a pokey tool, or a needle, or a pin, a sewing pin, or even a push pin, any sharp object that will poke a hole. So you'll go ahead and do that along all your letters. Then from there, I just have some embroidery floss. Okay, if you don't have embroidery floss, you can get embroidery floss for very cheap at Walmart in the sewing section. You can get a whole little thing of a color for about like 35 cents. I mean, it's super cheap. And then I have an embroidery needle with an eye big enough to, an eye big enough to hold thread your embroidery floss through. Okay, and then I've got some tape. Okay, because I'm not about like knots and stuff. That's just too fiddly for me. So what I do is I'm going to come in through the back at the top of my J, through my hole, and I'm going to pull my tail through. And then what I'm going to do is take a very small piece of tape, and not covering up any of my holes, I'm just going to tape that tail down, just like that. That way we don't have to mess with it. And the tape is coming off the edge, that's fine, because what I've done is on these is I've ripped my edges. So I'll end up doing that. And I'm sorry, my printer's like going off and I'm not sure why. Hang on one second. Sorry, somebody's trying to print something from somewhere in the house and they didn't have the paper tray pulled out. Sorry. Anyway, what I did was I tore the edges, so it doesn't really matter if my tape's hanging over. I'm going to end up cutting that away kind of anyway. And I'll show you as we get going. So I come up through my hole, starting from the back, and then I'm just going to go down the next hole. And then from the back, I'm just gonna go into the next hole, which is right here. I'm gonna do the top of my J here. So we'll fiddle with the top of the letter first, and then I'll show you kind of how it goes. Then I'm gonna go back through that middle hole. Essentially what we're doing is we're doing a back stitch. And I'll pull that through. Now, from the back, what you're going to do, and the pattern that you're going to sew through is this. From the back side, you're going through the next available hole. If you don't know how to do a back stitch, from the back, you're going through the next available hole. And then from the front side, you're filling in the gap. So you're going backwards and you're filling in the gap. Okay, so then when we turn it over, here's our next hole. So the back side is the next hole. And then the front side is coming back and filling in the gap. I have a Band-Aid on my finger, so it's making it a little hard to grip. Okay, now we're on the back side again. So we're just going in the next available hole. And then on the front side, we're going back and filling in the gap. Okay, next available hole. And then going back and filling in the gap. Okay, and I'm just gonna finish I'm not gonna do the whole card here. Next available hole on the back. I'm gonna finish the J, so I'm gonna just show you how to go to the next letter. And then filling in the gap. Next hole is over here. Fill in the gap. Next hole. Sorry about that noise if you hear that. My dog's scratching at the door. He sees something outside that he wants to go chase. Okay, and I'm a little knotted here, so I'm just gonna pull my thread up and straighten it out. Boss, stop it. Okay, from the back side, next hole. Almost done with our J. Then going backwards, that's why they call it a back stitch. Okay, and then we're going to go in the last hole for the J. All right, so our J is done. Okay, and that's what we have. Okay, now when moving to the next letter, all I do is I go to the closest hole. And because it just doesn't matter what the back side looks like. It's gonna get glued down, so nobody's gonna see it. Okay, next hole. And then fill in the gap. Okay, so you're just gonna do that for the whole word. And then when you come to the end, you'll just tape the end down and clip your thread, okay? So I'll finish that one up later. So here we have one that I finished. Okay, so this is Noelle. So I did this one in cursive and I did the other one in print. And what I've done is I've just gone through with a white gel pen just to kind of highlight the sides of each letter, just to add a little more stuff to it. I'm going to pause the video just a second and get my dog to quit whining. Hang on just one moment. Sorry about that. Okay, so all I did was add some highlights there just to kind of give it a little something. Okay, and you can see where I've taped off the beginning and end. All right, so now what I did from here is I wanted it to have a little bit more of kind of a vintage feel, rustic feel. So what I did was I just tore my edges. Just like this. Nothing too detailed. Just make sure that it's going to look nice on your tag, kind of whatever size it is, because of the size that we cut this originally. But don't go into your stitching. So just be careful not to go into your stitching. So I'm just going to tear the sides. And now you can see I've got, if you can tell, I've got tape from the back showing. So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm just going to snip that off from the back. Anything that's hanging over. And I'm leaving myself a little bit of room as I tear the edges because I want to do some stitching around the word, around the edges here. Because I just think that that just adds even a little more. When I'm doing anything with kind of a plain colored paper, a solid colored paper, I try and add as much to it as I can, just because I don't like my stuff to look plain. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my distress ink in Vintage Photo, and I'm going to ink the edges. And with that torn paper now, it takes the ink so well and it looks so nice with the edges being inked. So I'm just going to ink these up. Now, if you do not have distress ink, no worries. A lot of us have just regular inks. Use like a brown ink. That will give you the same kind of effect, okay? So don't feel like you have to go buy distress ink if you don't have it. Okay, so that's what we have now. Really cute, right? So on my other ones, I actually sewed these on my sewing machine. So you can see the stitching there on my sewing machine. So what I wanted to do with this one, just so I can show you that if you don't have a sewing machine, or if you don't want to use your sewing machine, you can just take, I just have a thin Sharpie pen here. And y'all have seen me do this before. And I'm just going to add stitch marks with a pen. I like this look almost as much because I love my sewing machine and I love the effect that it gives. Okay, but I love this look almost just as much. I love stitch marks made with pens or markers. I think they're super cute. So if you don't have a sewing machine, you can just do it this way. And I'll show you. It looks really cute. So don't feel like you have to have a sewing machine. You guys know me. I like to give you guys different options of how to do something in case you don't have exactly the same things I have, but you still want to get the same feel and the same look. Okay, so there's my stitch marks. So I want to show you how cute that looks. See how cute that looks? And here it is up next to the one on the sewing machine. They're both really cute. Okay, so You can use a pen if you don't have a sewing machine. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take our base. And what I've done here is the base is, sorry, just dropped my ruler. My base is cut at 2 7/8 by 5. And then I just edge punched this edge with an edge punch, just to give it a little more. And then I inked around the edges, front and back. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take, and I'm using Fabri-Tac because of our embroidery floss we used here. I just feel like I'm going to get a better bond with that. So I'm just going to use Fabri-Tac and go around all the edges and the middle. Get on my thread here. Okay, and I'm lining up the way this goes with my punched edge here. Kind of centering it, but leaving a little space over here to punch our hole. And we're gonna add a hole reinforcer there too. So let's get this glued down. And while this is setting up, I'm just gonna wipe off the excess that's kind of seeping out there. Okay, while this is setting up, I'm going to show you what I did for my hole reinforcers because I don't have hole reinforcers. But what I do have are punches. Now, you can, I'm just going to punch my hole here with the larger side of my crocodile. All right, get that ready to go. Now, I think I want to use green. So what I've done is I've taken green cardstock, and what I have is my crocodile hole punch, and then I have a 1/2 inch punch, okay? So what I'm gonna do to make my own hole reinforcer is I'm gonna punch a hole with my hole that was the same size as the hole in my tag. I'm gonna bring this up so you guys can see what I'm doing. Then I'm going to take my 1/2 inch punch and I'm going to center that hole that I punched with my 1/2 inch punch, and I'm going to punch it out. And look, we have the perfect little hole reinforcer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my distress ink just so that everything matches here. And I'm just going to go around my little hole reinforcer so that it looks distressed, and so it goes with the distressed look of the rest of the tag. And then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to just glue this down, matching up my hole, because the middle hole, remember, is the same size as the hole that we punched in here, so it should fit on there perfectly. Okay, so isn't that cute? Okay, now let's deal, so the front of our tag is done, pretty much. So let's deal with the back. And what I did for the to and the from, let me see if I can find them now. My desk, I'm telling you, is a mess. I'm in the middle of about 7 different projects. Oh no, where did they go? Hang on. I'm going to pause the video a second. Okay, found them. Okay, what I've done is this is just a 2-inch scallop that I punched. I have a punch. I distressed the edges with my distress ink. This is just my handwriting. I wrote to and from on the back and punched a hole. And I decided to do this on the back of this tag, and it's going to hang like this with our twine that we're going to run through the hole. Because I thought, you know, sometimes you might want to write a note or something. So this is a nice blank side if you wanted to write a note to whoever you're giving this gift to that this tag is going to go on top of. So, and then I just put the hole kind of off kilter so this sits at a slant just to give it a little more character. Okay, so we have that. That's going to go on the back. That's just going to thread through. And I thought it would be cute to put these little jingle bells. So I just have some red baker's twine. I'm gonna thread it through my jingle bell. Just like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna match up my little to and from tag on the back. Make sure that's all lined up. Then I'm going to take my two ends and I'm going to push them through the hole, pull them through like this. Dusty, stop it. Okay, so this is what I have. I have my jingle bell on the loop here. I'm going to reach through the loop. I'm going to grab my ends just like this, and I'm going to pull, and then I'm going to pull my jingle bell to the front, just like that. And there's our tag. I think this is super cute. I just love the hand stitching. It does take some time, but I did it in an evening. What I did was I just assembly lined them, and I cut 12 pieces of the craft paper, and then I wrote all the words and punched all the holes and got my embroidery floss and my needle and my scissors and my tape, and I just took them all to the couch and I just sat and stitched these while I watched TV one evening. Okay, so here's what this one, let me show you what the other ones look like. So I have that one and this one, and I used only scraps from my Christmas scraps. I didn't cut into any full sheets. And on this one, I did Mary, and then I just hand wrote Christmas down here. And all I did was put little dots on the ends of all my little spaces for my letters. Here's the other Merry Christmas one. And I have Rejoice. And I dotted my J and my I with just a couple little gems there. This sheet I cut a little bit longer because it was double-sided paper. And so then I folded my punch to edge over, and that just gave it even a little bit more. So this one I cut at 5.5 instead of 5. I only have a couple that I did that to. There's the other one that I did that to. So this is blue. My letters are blue on here and here. My little jingle bell fell to the back there. And then there's this one. Really cute. Let me know what you guys think. So again, this is week, 4 of our Christmas tags. So we're getting there. Our little stash for our Christmas tags is starting to build. And again, we're doing one Christmas tag each week leading up to Thanksgiving, so that for our gifts for our loved ones on Thanksgiving, we're going to be giving them a set of Christmas tags to kick off the holiday season this year. And that's just going to make a wonderful gift on Thanksgiving to your loved ones. So that's what we have this week. I hope you guys liked it. Give it a try. The hand-stitched lettering is just so cute and so rustic. Let me know what you think. As always, have a wonderful day and God bless.